4, 3, 2, 1. Buckle your seatbelt. Batten down the hatches. Coming to you live from the Blazar Podcast Studios in Space City, Texas. It's time once again for the Capital Catalyst Show, the podcast for entrepreneurs to learn the secrets of attracting, raising, and closing capital from high net worth investors. Dedicated to your success, this is the Capital Catalyst Show. Now here's your host, Brad Blazar.
All righty, welcome back, listeners. This is the host of the Capital Catalyst Show, Brad Blazar, once again, bringing value and, more importantly, bringing knowledge to the world of OPM. It's the OPM game. You know, I believe that everybody in the world has a desire to be doing more in life, and 99% of the time, the reason people get stuck is not due to the fear or the limiting belief about the big idea or about the big project. It all comes down to just one thing: lack of capital. And so here on the Capital Catalyst Show, we bring entrepreneurs, we bring business owners that have mastered the code at doing just that. And my guest today is no different. He is the founder of a company called Blue Ring Capital, and he is no other than Sanjay Hegde. So Sanjay, welcome to our show today.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate the introduction. And yes, I am the founder and president for Blue Ring Investors. And I'm so excited to be on your podcast. I hope I'll bring value to your listeners. So let's begin.
Fantastic. Well, you know, I always like to get started by kind of looking at somebody's past, because I believe that a tremendous amount of our success as business owners and entrepreneurs many times starts, you know, with the observations that we make, maybe even as children, seeing what our parents did, maybe dealing with our parents' struggles, saying to ourselves as we grow up, I don't want to have to go through the same experiences. And so therefore, maybe I'm a little bit more focused on being successful or learning a skill or learning a specific trait like investing in real estate. But maybe share, you know, for our listeners, you know, what your upbringing was like, and more importantly, how you got started in the real estate world.
Absolutely. Definitely be open for this story because it is a pretty good story.
Great.
So, well, I do come from a middle-class family. Both my parents worked back in India. And later on, my sister was the first one to come to the United States after she got married. And she sponsored my parents, and my parents sponsored me. So that's in just how I came to the United States of America. Came here in the year 2001, February 21st. It was a pretty cold for someone who's coming from India. And obviously, I was newly married, and I got married in September of 99. And then I had got my green card at that time, but my wife was like, you're not going to America by yourself. So we applied for her as well. And we both moved over here. Usually, Brad, what ends up happening is when you get your green card and you come into the United States, there is a stamp on the passport, which is an Indian passport, but it does give you the authorization to work. But without a physical green card in your hand, you cannot apply for a social security number. And without a social security number, you cannot get a job. So right. Usually you get it within 2 weeks of you entering into the United States. For me, you know, I call it bad luck, or just the way I look at it is God has a plan for you. So, you know, it ended up becoming where it took me 3 months to get it. And when you're newly married and it is cold outside and you got nothing else to do, I realized that we men, we just make babies. And, you know, my wife was pregnant. And when I did get my green card, I had to frantically look for a job. So I'm a pharmacist by education back in India. So, you know, I went to Walmart and I said, they were looking for a pharmacist. So I tell them, hey, here is my transcripts and I need to get a job, and you guys are looking for a pharmacist. And they were like, yeah, all that is good, but you cannot, because you need to get a license for here. Sure. And I'm like, you know, what do I do with, you know, where do I get the license? They're like, okay, you got to go to college for that. So I wasn't lucky enough to get into college because, you know, I had a baby on the way, so I had to get a job. So I started off with a small company, with a company called SAFT on the floor, which was giving like $7.25 and 50 cents a shift premium. It was not something that I had done ever in my life, but I said, hey, a man got to start someplace. And that's where I got started. And I was very fortunate. As I said, God always has a plan. I grew within the company, became a production supervisor, then became a sales rep for the Northeastern region, then became the sales manager for North America,
Yeah.
did very well. It was a billion-dollar company. It was globally, it was on the, it was all over the, world. They had plants. And, they weren't doing that well in the, the in the Asia side. So they promoted me as the director of sales for Americas and Asia, and I grew that as well. And during this entire journey, I was making more money. And
Okay.
to make more money, people always say that you got to invest. Because money in the bank savings don't generate anything for you, right? So I said, okay, I just like most of them, I was like, yeah, but for retirement, I have my 401k, right? Um, which is okay, but then you see the ups and downs of it. That's fine as well, because I like to be a long-term investor as well. But at the same time, I felt like a lot of people saying invest in real estate. And I was like, okay, let me do that. So I invested in some single family homes.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this seems to be okay. The mortgage is getting paid by the tenant. And later on, I'll probably sell it. I'll make some money. Or maybe I might get some extra money out of it as a cash flow. Well,
Right.
none of those things happened, but it was okay. I was earning really well. So I didn't really think much about it, because I really didn't have the time, because I was just traveling the world all along.
Mhm.
Um, Ended up becoming also, I was looking at a YouTube video, and there was this guy who was talking about self-directed IRA. And that was
Yeah.
like, wow, I didn't know we could do this, right? And I called this gentleman, and he started telling me more about it. And he said, hey, Sanjay, have you heard about syndication? Have you heard about passive investment? I'm like, what is that? And I said, I have real estate. He said, yeah, but are you getting any income out of it? Are you getting any cash flow out of it? I said, no, because a lot of my things are getting to fix problems that are there. And sometimes there are no tenants in it. So I got to still pay from my pockets. I really don't see this going anywhere. So he was like, yeah, have you thought about rental apartments? Have you thought about self-storage?
Yep.
I said, is there a place for that? He said, yeah, they do this through syndication. That was the first time I ever heard of something like that. Because
Yep.
until then, I was like, oh, you need to have a lot of money to, invest in these kind of things. So it is knowledge based, right? It's like a lot of people don't even know what it is. Like I did not know about it. So I was like, okay, so let me invest in that. And that's where I started seeing passive income coming in. And that is where I felt, oh, this is something that's nice. But it was going on, but not until 2017. I was in Japan when my son got into an accident. And because as you notice that all along I was all focused on my self growth and
Yeah.
not paying too much attention towards the family. In fact, there were times when my wife would tell me that, hey, Sanjay, you know what? I feel like I'm a single mom over here. Like, you're never home.
Yep.
But she was okay. She never said anything about it in a mean way. But sometimes frustrations do happen when you're not around, especially when you miss 2 or 3 of your wedding anniversaries because you're traveling, right? So
Yeah.
that is when it creeps in even more. But overall, it was not a bad thing. But when my son got into this accident, I really felt bad. I felt like I was not there for him. Obviously, he called AAA. Nothing happened to him, fortunately, or the person who drove into him. But as a father, I felt I needed, not only the freedom of financial freedom, but I also wanted time freedom, because
Mhm.
money was
Right.
coming in, but there was no time, and I felt like I was trading time for money. And
Mhm.
I have, my daughter just turned 14, but at that time she was a lot younger. I felt I need to spend more time with her. I
Sure.
should be able to do at least I wasn't able to do that with my son, but at least I can do that with her. And I
Right.
started looking for opportunities as to what else to do. Just like most of the other Indians, I thought, okay, liquor store might be one of the things that I could do. But I live in North Carolina, and in North Carolina, it's all state owned. The next best thing an Indian can think about
Yes,
is
they
opening
should.
a 7-Eleven, right?
Yeah.
So, but one of my childhood friends, Ajit Baliga, he told me that, hey, Sanjay, this is not for you, man. Don't get involved in this one. So I kept thinking, what is the next thing that I got to do? Until, Ari Mentor had come down to Charlotte. And I
Mhm.
said, okay, let me go check it out. And I saw that. And it kind of made sense to me. So I signed up for their boot camp. And
Okay.
after I signed up for the boot camp, I learned that, the 3-day boot camp was pretty informative, but it was just enough where one can get dangerous and lose, money or a lot of things. But I felt mentorship is something that is good. And I really strongly believe in mentorships. Like it is always good to have a coach, right? Like even the best of the sports people have coach. The reason
Right.
is because you always need a coach or a guide to help you through the thing. And though they are already experienced, they know when you're doing something wrong, so they correct you. So I used all of that time for an entire year to understand the business and also to build network, because as they always say, right, your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that was an important thing that I did, and later on I got started off with luring investors. So that's pretty much how I got into this business.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, you really dropped a lot of information there. There were, two really good golden nuggets. One is understanding early that having a coach, having a mentor can really accelerate things for you because they're able to find what you're doing wrong, correct that, and set you on the path to success. And the other also is really just understanding that, the great secret about real estate is the ability in a relatively short period of time to replace our earned income with passive income so that we no longer are exchanging our time for money, which unfortunately is what so many people do as they go through life. They get a job, they show up every day and they think, I got to go to work. You don't have to go to work. You can call your boss right now and say, I quit. Don't ever want to see you again. But we realize people can't do that. Why? Because they need to put food on the table. They need to pay their bills. But once you understand the OPM game, and you understand that there are investors out there that understand the principle of, hey, I got to put my money to work. My money's just a tool. It does me no good, or it's a little value if it just sits over here in the bank. Your money's now having babies, making more money. And that's really a great golden nugget that you shared. One thing that I always believe in a lot of people's lives, Sanjay, is there are kind of what I call defining moments. It's kind of like an epiphany or like a aha moment. And so as you look back, on your career, what you were doing before you got started with Blue Ring, were there any challenges or maybe any setbacks that in hindsight really played a crucial role in your personal development, kind of gave you that stepping stone that you learned from? If you could go back and kind of look at some of the challenges or setbacks, what would maybe have been, I won't say a negative, but played a crucial role really in your personal development to create and ultimately mold you into the person that you become today?
So yeah, it's a great question, and the way I always look at it is, as far as the past is concerned, over a period of time, I always believe that God puts you through a journey for a reason. That's number one. And every journey that you go through teaches you a lesson. So there is, I would not change anything from that perspective, because I would not be what I am if I had not gone through certain experiences in my life. So that's one part of it. But what would I do in real estate? One of the things that I could say is I wish I would have gotten into this a lot sooner. Maybe before I started investing in the single family homes, if I would have had known about that, hey, there is something called as syndication. You don't have to put in your own money, because with single family, there are challenges when it comes down to how much you can scale. But in this one, you can scale much faster, and not use a lot of your money. You're using other people's money, and you're giving it, you're doubling their money in most cases, right? I want to be SEC compliant, so I don't want to say that that's what you do on every one of them. But I personally don't get myself into a deal if I cannot 2x people's money. So that's just how I look at this. But it's interesting that a lot of people don't know that you don't need to have a lot of money to get started in this. It is all knowledge based. And the fun part about this whole thing is multifamily or any of these that we are talking about, whether it is senior housing or student housing or even self-storage, none of these have to be all done by yourself. This is a team sport. You have a good team of people that you work with. Some of them could be, you could start off like when I got started, you needed a sponsor, and you had asset managers to look at. So you put together a team that brings in where it helps you grow, and we all grow together. So that's the beauty about this. So I would definitely, if I knew this a little bit sooner, instead of putting some money into single homes and wasting my time over there, I would have probably got started on this one much faster.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good point. It is about the team. At the end of the day, it's really communicating to the potential investors that you're speaking to that, hey, I'm not a solopreneur. I've got a team of people that I work very closely with in property management, over here in construction, over here in make ready. We've got an accountant that keeps the books and records, and we got securities attorneys to make sure that we're doing this right and we're staying compliant. That's very, very key, because at the end of the day, investors want to know and understand that you, as the person they're investing with, can execute. It's all about execution. And Mark Cuban has a saying. He said there's a big difference between being a entrepreneur and an entrepreneur. There's a lot of people out there that have big dreams and aspirations, and they want to do something, but at the end of the day, they haven't put together the team of people to make that big idea become a reality. And that's a big, big key here. When you look at success and you look at building something of value, building a legacy, a lot of that really comes down to daily habits. I believe to a certain degree that the most successful people I've interviewed have a routine, have daily habits. And, as a business owner and as somebody that has worked with coaches and mentors, I not only absorb what they teach me, I say, I'd really like to know what your daily habits are. Like, how do you structure your day? How do you, plan your day so that you can have a healthy work-life balance? How do you structure your day to kind of maintain that healthy work-life balance? Do you have any morning routines or anything you do that kind of set you up for success?
Absolutely. I think being disciplined is the key to anybody's success, right? So that's number one. So your planning always starts the day before. Like, I don't like to wake up in the morning and then plan the day. I like to plan the day, just before I go to sleep. Right. I want to make sure I know what exactly I'm getting into, because you wake up and you get started, right? So the couple of things that I do is I'm an early riser. So I'm usually up around 4 o'clock in the morning. The first thing is, I always believe that I give thanks to God, because, for letting me wake up and actually be able to live another day, because there are so many people who don't get up the next day, right? So that's one part of it. So giving thanks is my first thing that I do. Then obviously, the affirmations go a long way, especially positive affirmations, when you keep talking about that, hey, I'm going to do better than what I did yesterday. All of these other things that you talk about, and especially I do a lot of the financial affirmations, as well as, okay, you got to keep telling yourself, hey, yes, I'm a millionaire. I'm going to do much more than this. Money comes to me easily and things like that. And it starts because the universe has a way of putting things together for you. So right. But you got to believe in it. And more than anything else, when you put something for yourself, you set yourself to win. And you come with that positive attitude, right? And your day starts early. Now you've already planned for what you're going to do. Now that is exactly, and always keep time for yourself. Like, I am a person, after every 20 minutes of my work, unless it's in a meeting that you have to continue for a half an hour. But if it is just a regular thing that I have to do, I do, take myself off the table for 5 minutes. Like, for every 20 minutes, I take 5 minutes break. I'll just walk around, just shake off a little bit, because sometimes you get so engrossed into something that your mind doesn't work. It gets fixated on something. So if you just let it shake off a little bit, when you come back, you're ready for much better ideas. So that's something that I try to incorporate it. And I always make sure that I always keep some time aside for things that you don't know what's going to happen. So it's like, I would say, if you go to a dentist's office and if you look at scheduling, right, you always schedule for emergencies. So it's the same thing. You got to always keep some time aside for emergencies. If nothing is there coming up, okay, you add something else to it. But I always like to do things in bite sizes, and try to make things happen, because there's a reason why I feel that is important, is because when you accomplish smaller things, in smaller bites, it gives you the encouragement and the confidence to do more and more. But if
Yeah.
you could pile yourself with a whole lot saying, oh, I'm going to do these 10 things, and you end up doing only 2 out of it, now you feel discouraged that and you feel pressure. So I'm not
Mhm.
trying to say that don't set your goals high, but try to keep it realistic and
Mm.
try to give enough time to make sure that you complete all of those.
That's really good. You know, having those daily habits is so important. And unfortunately, a lot of people, especially the younger people, don't understand planning your day the evening prior to the day even starting. You know, even if it's 15, 20 minutes and just quickly looking, okay, who's on my calendar? What meetings do I have? It's really the difference between living life on the offensive, kind of like the offensive team in football, right? You get the quarterback, you're moving the ball downfield, you want to get into the end zone, and living life on the defensive, where you just kind of wake up, you don't have a game plan, and life just dumps everything in your lap. And now you're dealing with your daily events in what I call a reactionary. I'm reacting to this because it was dumped in my lap, or I'm reacting to this because I didn't plan. But if you plan and you know exactly what you're doing, you can focus on the big picture things. Because, you know, I've been speaking to a lot of people, and I say, you know, how was your day today? Oh, it was great. Real busy. Great. What did you do? And they rattle off a bunch of things that they did, but at the end of the day, they didn't do anything big that really moves the needle in their business. And I said, sounds to me like you were wasting the whole day in a bunch of minutia, like a bunch of small shit that really at the end of the day wasn't strategic planning, really didn't get you any closer to that big goal that you've been working on. But, you know, you also talked about goals, which are also very important in having any degree of success. You know, if you look kind of at where you are today, what are some items, maybe, Sanjay, that are on your bucket list that you're most excited about accomplishing in the future?
Well, obviously, we already got the time freedom part of it, so that's a great thing. Spending time with my kids is becoming much easier, right?
No.
Putting them through college has become much easier. So all those things are great things. But what I really want to get myself into more is, I see a big value in senior housing, and there is a
Mhm.
huge deficit of senior housing. So I would like to start off more focused on ground up constructions on the senior housing projects,
Yeah.
and making that into a success, because multifamily is good. I'm already in it, and obviously it will continue to grow, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Mhm.
But senior housing is definitely something that I'm looking at, because obviously I would like to build really good ones, so that all these, like my parents are old as well, but I just want to make sure that a lot of the people who will be coming into this very, very quickly have a very comfortable place to stay.
I love that. I love that. You know, as you've developed and grown as a person, has there been any specific books that have had a profound effect or an impact on your perspective or outlook on life that you attribute your success to?
That's a very good question, actually, if you look at it, because um, I when I was in my company, where even though I was not from a business background, I should say, I was still managing about $300 million worth of business, right?
Wow.
I'm a pharmacist by education. I had made sure that I looked at the P&Ls and stuff like that. And most of the time is, when you come from a country like India, right? You'll realize that there are there are a lot of resources that you don't have, and you have to
Mhm.
still
Yeah.
grow through that process. So there was this book called Innovative Jugaad. Jugaad in India means you're making something out of nothing. Like you just made something work, right?
Yeah.
So that was that one book that really got me, and that made me started thinking, like if there is a problem, don't give up. Figure out a solution for it. So
Mm.
basically, Jugaad means a solution. You find the solution for it. Like for example, a lot of people cannot actually go for CT scans and stuff like that right there, because it's huge machines, and you have to go to a city to get all of these things done, and those are expensive. So there were people who, like GE in India, found a way where a doctor found a way to take it portable one, and do whatever he needed to do. Of course, the graphics were not the greatest, but it got the job done. So that was
Right.
one of the things. But once I got into real estate kind of a thing, I started reading Traction. I obviously Rich Dad Poor Dad is everybody's favorite, so obviously that's there. Law of Attraction, definitely, because when I first got started, it was very hard because I can tell you the first time I tried to raise capital, I did zero raise, and I felt so embarrassed about it that I actually put my own money into the project. But I started and I started writing so many underwritings, and I was like, man, I'm not getting anywhere with this, right?
Yeah.
So having at that given point of time that to boost your morale and to build your confidence, I started reading this one. So that was definitely something that helped me out. Um, you know, uh, I think I did talk to you about Traction. Obviously, the subtle art of not giving a fuck is another one of those I like to read, because when you're stressed and you think that everything is going against you, you want to, figure out how to get over things and not to look at other people and get worried that I'm not there yet. Think and get, Grow Rich is one of the, was another book that I read. Obviously, the latest one that I read was Psychology of Money. That really gave me an idea about when I'm talking to investors, because obviously you build the funnel, you get a great CRM, all of those things are good, but understanding why your investor wants to invest in a certain way, or understanding how their mindset works, that really helped me a lot. So this book helped me a lot in that one as well. So those are some of the books that I can just name. There are quite a whole lot of books, and very recently I've subscribed to one of these, what do you call that? I'm just looking at it. It's called Headway. And this is like, it's such a good one. It's like a 90-minute thing. And I do that while I'm driving. It just keeps talking. They have several books that happens, and you just put it on, and it's like anywhere between 30 minutes to 60 minutes to 90 minutes book. And you just drive around and you pick which one you want, and it just goes on and on with it. So I have access to that one as well. I would definitely encourage everybody, because it tells you small nuggets that instead of reading the entire book, it just takes some of those nuggets and talks about that.
Gotcha. Almost like the Cliff Notes, I guess, that a lot of people buy. I remember as a student in school, we had to write this big essay on a book, and nobody wanted to read the book, so we all bought the Cliff Notes. But I think the teacher knew, based on your essay, that you took the shortcut and you read the Cliff Notes. But at the end of the day, it does consolidate, and it does concisely, bring stuff together. One thing that is really important, certainly, is to kind of learn by mistakes and, go through those life lessons, those difficult, challenging times. Can you maybe reflect on a mistake, or maybe a challenge, or maybe a failure that taught you something valuable about yourself, or maybe more
Yeah, I got a lot of those. I don't call them failures. I call them learning lessons.
There you go. Yeah.
Lessons learned, right? So, because to me, it is like, you fail only when you give up.
Right.
Until then, you don't, right? So yes, when I got into multifamily, the first thing I thought was, okay, raising capital would be my superpower, and I need to focus on that. So, I started trying to do that part of it. The first one was a total failure. I would say, I wouldn't use the failure, but lessons learned. I tried to figure out why was I not able to raise capital. And obviously they tell you, yeah, friends and family and blah, blah, blah. That's one of the easiest way to lose your friends and family, is to go to them, right? Because they start avoiding you like a plague. So that's one part. But I did learn that, if you want to get into something like this, you have to create a brand, and you are your brand. The name Blue Ring Capital, yes, you might have a great story, and which I can come to later on, why Blue Ring Investors, but you are the brand, you are the face of the company. So how do you create that is one part of it. And previously when I first thought, okay, social media, maybe I took it a little bit lightly. I thought, okay, I can get it on Fiverr, some people to do something, build a website by something, throw that thing in there, and boom, people will see you. No, that was that was not right on my side to think about it that way. So to create the brand, I actually then later on hired a professional marketing company who created the things for me and do things for me. Obviously, all of the things that I do, like the contents and stuff like that, it's not obviously, I do have an input, or my partners do have an input in that. But at the end of the day, it was important to make sure that we have the right structure in place, the right CRM in place, make sure that you follow up with them. So have a VA in place to make those calls. You personally call investors as well and understand the mindset. Like, there are so many questions that you have to ask your investors, like why they want to invest the way they want to invest. Or if they don't know about syndication, then educate them, have the right kind of lead magnets put in place and follow up. So all of those things that I learned, which I did not know. Also, there were a couple of things that I did not know about is partnering, right? Partnering with the right partners. Sometimes in a rush to go get your first deal, you try to sign up on certain things, which then you try to figure out is like, okay, was that the right thing to do? Or, some of the partners are strong partners, you want to hold on to them. Some of them are the weak partners. Now you need to figure out how you're going to play with them and work with them, because you're all playing in the same sandbox. And, sometimes the weakest link can make the entire chain go away. But now you got to figure out how you're going to work with it and get it to fruition, because at the end of the day, you have your investors' money on the line, and you want to make sure that you make this into a success, whether one partner is strong or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Branding is something, unfortunately, that a lot of people overlook. And I'll tell you, in any business, it doesn't matter what business you're in, it's really important to understand the importance of a logo, a brand, and really, what it stands for. For example, everybody that sees that little Apple, man, we know that's Apple Computer, or we know that's Macintosh. Everybody that sees that little swoosh on a tennis shoe, man, that's Nike, right? Yep. But it's really, I never realized in real estate how important it was until I worked with a very, very smart real estate executive in California. And he was creating liquidity for his investors, taking a portfolio of self-storage assets and now taking that to market to sell his entire portfolio. It was about $400 million perhaps in self-storage locations across the United States. And the first company that he was speaking to was a company which is well known called CubeSmart, one of the big five operators. And they flew him up to their corporate offices. And so, they're doing their dog and pony show. And CubeSmart made him an offer. It was about $900 million. And, like any good CEO, he kind of stalled and said, I've got a fiduciary responsibility to my investors, and I've got to meet with my board, and we got to digest the offer. And while they were doing that, he now got a follow-up call from Extra Space, another very large operator. And again, they met with them, and an offer came in. It was $1.4 billion.
Wow.
And so his mind is like, holy crap, like what did they see that these other people didn't? If there was only a difference of maybe 10 million, $20 million, I wouldn't be sitting here, but 500 million. And so he just, casually asked the group over at Extra Space, hey, we got other offers that we're considering. What is it that you see in the value of our portfolio in real estate that makes you want to prove forward and purchase it? And they said, Michael, it's not the real estate we're buying, it's the brand. We're buying the name SmartStop, a smarter place to store, and what that represents and stands for in the entire storage industry. And he left that meeting and that encounter realizing the brand just gave me a premium of $500 million that the other people didn't see and overlooked. And naturally, he went and sold it to them. But from that day forward, he saw the value in branded real estate. And here's the key. I used to know a gentleman many years ago before he passed away, John Williams, who was the founder of what ultimately grew to become the largest owner-operator of apartment communities in the United States. It was Post Properties out of Atlanta, Georgia. Every door on every single property he owned across the country was a dark burgundy color, very similar to the color of a glass of Merlot wine. And one day he was asked, why is the door in every one of your properties that burgundy color? He said, because in Feng Shui, it's a very inviting color. And so we want to welcome people home to our communities. And we couldn't think of a better way to do that within the world of Feng Shui, which is why the door on every one of our units, on every asset we own, is this dark, deep burgundy color. And if you look at the world of real estate, what is the color of every self-storage unit that Public Storage has across the United States? Orange. A lot of people that know Extra Space, green. It's branding what you do in business, because if you understand that, it will become much more valuable than the actual asset itself.
Yep.
And people are willing to pay a premium. So, great stuff. As we kind of wrap up, Sanjay, and kind of get to the top of our session here, what are some key takeaways or maybe some insights that you'd like my listeners to maybe remember or take away from our discussion today?
Absolutely. If your listeners are new students getting into this business, I would definitely say this is this is a business of patience. This is not a get rich quick thing. Don't give up. Try to work with the right mentors. Try to partner with right people who have done this before and successfully done this. Try to learn from other people's mistake. When you go to the networking event, try to make sure that you sit in a group and listen to their story. Ask them questions, because the way I see it is everybody has a story, and they all have paid their dues. So don't give up, and don't be in a rush. That first deal that you want will come, but also remember that this is a team sport. So figure out what is your superpower and hone in on that superpower, and that the rest of the thing can be brought in by your team. So you don't have to do this all by yourself. Just make sure that you bring value to somebody and explain to them, after listening to them, what is the value that you bring to the table. And that's the key. Like, how can you give back? That's the key. And once you do become successful, I would definitely encourage you to help the others who are still getting into this. And if anybody needs to call me or anything, need help from my side, I'm always here. You can reach me on my cell phone, which is 828-391-4805, or go to my website, which is www.bluringinvestors.com. The QR code is right over here. Feel free to do that as well. And if there are investors, I will definitely tell you that if you're new to investing, if you don't know about syndication, talk to the operators and ask them all the right questions. Brad has a great book as well, so you can read those. I also have a book on my website. I have put together specifically for those who don't understand what syndication is or how to make passive income through syndications. And I kept the name of the book very simple because I'm one of these guys, I try to keep it simple and stupid, right? So, it's the KISS method. So I just try to keep the name very simple. So they can obviously download that as well to read it. And but for those in syndication, if you're on the edge thinking whether should I invest or not, please do. Also, there is one of the webinars that I have on my website, which talks about the 51 questions that you can ask your operator before you decide to put in the money, because questioning the operator is the key, because there are so many of us out there. There are good operators and there are bad operators. You just want to make sure that you go with the good ones, like Brad and myself. So, feel free to download, look at that as well.
Fantastic. As we look to the new year, which obviously starts here in a couple of days, looking ahead, what excites you most about the future and next year for Blue Ring and your investors? Kind of looking ahead, what excites you most about the upcoming year?
Yeah. So the thing is, other man's misfortune is our fortune, right? So that's the thing. So I do know that with all this interest rates going up, even though it's coming down a little bit, but there are a lot of bad operators who have to refinance their properties, and they won't be able to because they did not operate it. They didn't get to the end goal. So they have no other option but to actually sell it. So there will be flooding out there where there will be a lot of good opportunities to go in and capture. And that's one of the things, right, why I'm also going to Dubai. I was there in 2020, in 2022 for the Middle Eastern Investor Expo, where I did put in some connections. We are putting in an SPV, special purpose vehicle in place in Dubai so that we can get the investors from there as well, because money is going to be the king, and making sure that the money comes in and we close in on all these deals. So it's going to be fun. So I'm excited about that part of it.
I love it. Well, Sanjay, I just want to, share my sincere gratitude for joining us today. A lot of great stuff that you shared. For those of you that want to connect with Sanjay, or more importantly, follow him and his company, Blue Ring Investors, check him out. Like he said, he shared his phone number earlier. If you want to maybe just share that once again.
It's 828-391-4805.
Right. This is Brad Blazar, again, the host of the Capital Catalyst Show. Do us a favor. If you like this episode, if you like listening today, become a subscriber, become a follower. This is Brad Blazar saying thank you so much for listening. And more importantly, we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Capital Catalyst Show with Brad Blazar, the best place for entrepreneurs interested in doing something big in life, having considerably less stress, and a more balanced life. Go to bradblazar.com for more ways to accelerate your success.